I'm Camille Penn. I'm the director of Future en Scène Festival. Very happy to see you here for the first implant party that has ever taken place here in Paris, in France. So what is an implant party? It's just a collective moment where people get implanted with NFC tags. What a crazy idea. It's not my idea, it's not our idea. It's Hannes Joblad's idea. He's organizing many implant parties in Sweden, where he's from, and has got implanted hundreds of people. So he contacted us a few months ago, asking us to host this implant party, and we were afraid at first. We were surprised because it goes with many questions about the future of machine-human interfaces, about the frontier between humans and cyborgs. But we decided that Future en Scène is really the place to have this kind of event, because it's important to ask these questions and to expose all the issues that go with that. So Hannes Joblad, he's a biohacker from the biohacker space in Sweden called Bionifiken. He's also the chief disruptive officer of the epicenter in Stockholm. And so that was my introduction of him.
What's going to happen now is I'm going to give a little introduction to biohacking and what we are doing in Sweden, and what's the whole thing with these chip implants. And then we'll have some live implanting. Now, briefly, what is biohacking? I mean, this is a complex term that you hear in different places, and I'm just going to tell you sort of how I look at it and how we in Sweden look at it. And what we think is that biohacking is, I mean, hacking is not necessarily something bad. When you hear about a hacker, is it someone that breaks into a system to steal data or money? We don't see hacking that way. Hacking for us is just experimenting. And to experiment specifically with biological beings. It can be anything from bacteria all the way to Homo sapiens. And what is also important for us is this do-it-yourself approach. I mean, we invent the toys ourselves, we build the equipment ourselves, and try to learn the technology from the very bottom. And also it's very important that we see ourselves as sort of a little counter-culture activist group. So we want this not to be corporate something or government something. It's very important that this is sort of from bottom-up perspective in what we do. And we question authority, and we question sort of the general messages that we get. So who hangs out in the biohackers world then? But we also have people who are very interested in quantified self. I'm sure a lot of people here knows what that is. Someone who doesn't know? Okay, you're too cool to show, but it's about logging personal data. You can do it with fitness wearables or and also other things, like you can log your sleep with putting something under your mattress, for example, to understand what does it mean when I have too much coffee in the afternoon. How does that affect my sleep pattern? And you can actually get the right data instead of just feeling tired the day after. Then we have body hackers, which in our definition, these are people who like to hack the performance of their bodies. And we are, in this category, we're very inspired by, for example, professional athletes. What should I eat? How should I sleep? How should I exercise in order to get optimal performance? To give you a couple of examples of stuff we do in the Stockholm hackerspace, we build our own brain electric stimulation devices. This is a lot of fun. I mean, you can buy this online, but we think it's a lot more fun to build them ourselves. And this is a technology that supposedly improves memory, for example, a little bit. If you study French verbs and you put this on, you actually remember them a little bit better. And what it did for me this particular time, it cured my hangover, and that's also a pretty nice treat. It has to be sort of scientifically verified, though, I guess. Another fun thing we did was we said, You know, technology is becoming so cheap and accessible that anybody can, in fact, build their own DNA register. You can sample your colleagues or your neighbors, and you can see who is not washing up the coffee cups in the office by sampling who uses it. And the whole idea with this is not that we think that this is sort of something that people should do, but for us the ambition is to show what can be done with modern technology. Now, can I ask, how many of you guys have this in your pocket? I learned today it's called a badge in French, right? Un badge, no? Some of you? How many of you have some kind of body earring or piercing? All right, so here we see two, very mainstream things, right? But what happens when you combine these? Then you get the chip implant. And for us, this is really just a badge that you put in the body. The technology is not more complex than that. And in fact, we've been putting exactly these kind of things into animals in an industrial scale for the last 25 years. So we know how this technology works, and it's been done a lot. But why then suddenly start putting them into humans? Well, the reason is that the world is changing around us, and we have the Internet of Things coming, and we are suddenly becoming surrounded by smart devices that can interact with these chip implants. So let's get some guys together and see how this technology works. We have to find out. So we hosted an implant party. The main insight is that we carry a lot of things in our pockets. And most of these things, they are actually just access devices. All the keys, this is a very old technology, by the way, metal keys. You know, we found them in the ruins of Pompeii, exactly this kind of keys. 2,000 years old. The Romans used these kind of keys. Just like people use metal coins with a picture of a king, right? Pretty old technology. So some people still use it, I've heard. I don't like the idea of carrying around metal junk in my pockets. It's heavy, and I lose them from time to time. So my vision is really, how can I replace need to have to carry around this stuff in a smart way? And here the implant serves a really good purpose. And in fact, the same applies to also many cards that we have in our wallets. It's the library card and the gym card and the public transportation cards, etc. They all use similar type of technologies. And then we have all the digital logins. Who in here has experienced this? You've forgotten your password, or you've forgotten your PIN code. I'd like to say that our human brains, they are not sort of adapted to remember PIN codes. It's very anti-human to have to remember PIN codes in your head. And these chip implants, they can also deal with these digital logins. So this is my hand, and this is what I've done in the last 6 months to use my hand for. And just to give you some examples, let's see, here's the pointer. Oops. Anyway, here's my gym card. That instead, when I now go to the gym, I just swipe my hand at the door. And then here's my business card. I have my business card in my hand. So anyone who wants to scan my hand later on, you get my business details. I've gotten rid of the keys to some lockers. I have this is a discount card from a shop. We get 10 stamps and you get the 10th coffee for free. And then we have the office badges, and also the passwords and login for my smartphone, as well as various discounts in different shops. And it didn't really take any programming skills. It's just that I hold up my hand and I touch it to the reader. And then I was registered. So we didn't have to input any particular numbers or such. Identification is obviously the use where replacing keys when I enter buildings, for example, or open locks. I prove that I am the person who has the right to access this building. Another example that I find quite interesting, and we're building one of these guns in the Stockholm makerspace right now. Imagine if you can have a safety in a gun. I don't know, probably we're not in the States, but in France maybe people don't have handguns at home, but in some countries they do, right? So imagine if you can have a chip in your hand and it's connected to a reader in the gun, so that only this person can use the gun. To me, that is quite a relevant user case, because we read how children or burglars, they find a gun in a house and they use it on the people who live there. So with this technology, you can actually make it a lot safer. Another interesting aspect is sort of the personalization of technology. Imagine that me and my partner, we share the same family car, but she's short and I'm tall. And whenever she's been using the car, I have to rearrange the seat and the mirrors and change the music channels, etc. But if we could just put a sort of a €2 reader in the steering wheel, it would automatically know who is the person coming to sit in the car, and it can adjust accordingly. Another interesting example is to use this as transaction verifications. I have connected myself to a company so that I can just swipe my hand and buy stuff in vending machines. So I actually use it for payments. And we have the activity logging aspect. Imagine, I already go to the gym with this implant, but imagine if I could put readers in all the gym equipment. So it would log every exercise I do, instead of that I have to write it down or just remember it. So it's 40 times the weight and the repetition on every machine, just by having readers implanted in the different equipment. I think that would be very interesting for people who are interested in quantified self or fitness, for example. Sorry. And then we have the smart toilets. Another aspect of the smart Internet of Things, right? This is quite advanced in Japan. I'm not sure how far you've gotten in France. We don't have them in Sweden yet. When you go to the bathroom, you actually leave a lot of interesting data in the toilet regarding your health. And a smart toilet logs these data and see, okay, if someone has a disease or approaching diabetes or something else, and you can get the report and you can log this data to improve your health. Now, what about the user case for this toilet for a family? Okay, or if I have guests at home, they're going to screw up my data, right? And all of us who care about data, we don't want that to happen. So how can I make the toilet know that it's just I'm the person using it? Well, do I want to bring a swipe card into the bathroom every time I go? Sounds like a pain, right? So what we're looking for is sort of a very simple interface between the body and the technology. And if I have a chip in my hand and the flush button, which I'm anyway touching, it registers, okay, this was the user, and then logs the data in the relevant profile. To me, that makes the user case a lot better. I'm going to speed up now. So then, of course, you can store some information on the implant. Not a lot, about the size of a couple of business cards. But I think the most exciting use for this technology is to integrate the public encryption key into the business card. So that whenever I share my contact details with someone, I also include my public encryption key, so that I can encrypt any information between this person and me. And I think this is part of a solution where we, users and citizens, we take back this lack of control that we have over our digital data. And it's a very important aspect. And I have friends in the medical profession who said, okay, this would be fantastic to have people's health data on the implant. What is the blood group, or they have any allergies, for example, if you find someone at an accident. Now, there are some downsides with this technology. Very likely. I mean, we are going to discuss this in some more depth with the panel. But what I see is there are, of course, health risks when you put something foreign into your body, if it's not done in the right way. And this has to be considered. And you have the aspect of surveillance or privacy, which is very much a problem in our modern day and age. And the short answer for this question is that the good thing with these implants is that they have a very short range. They don't have their own battery or any battery source, power source, which means that they are passive and only wake up when they are really close to a reader of some kind, such as a phone or a door. And you have to be within 1 centimeter to read it. And that means that it's really quite hard to do surveillance for people who have the current generation of implants. And I personally think that this chip implant technology perhaps has a similar potential to be a simplification of the interface between humans and machines. And really, when we talk about this technology, we should look at how does it make people's daily lives simpler. I don't really need to care about the different bandwidths and the size of antennas. We just want it to be safe and useful. We humans, we've always updated ourselves with technology. It's not a new concept. And today, what's happening in this body upgrading space is that devices are getting smarter, smaller, and they are becoming connected. So my personal view, and I'm happy to debate this with you guys now, is that the connected body is a concept which is very much here to stay. And what I think are the sort of three key uses that we're going to see in the near future is, in general, this simple identification of ourselves with all the smart devices around us. There are other technologies to do that, but this particular one has a promise because it is such a simple and basic technology. And then, sorry, a little bit slow here. Okay, secondly, we have the fitness tracking aspect. You know, we can get so much better data under our skins instead of wearing wearables on top of our skin. And also, many people get rid of the wearables because they don't like the aesthetics of them. But with an implant, you can use it with any dress or in any context because it doesn't disturb the aesthetics. And finally, the whole encryption aspect I talked about earlier, which I find very important. I would like my sort of physical self to have a greater control over my digital self and all the data I share out there. And if I can use this technology to encrypt my communications out there in a controlled way, that would be a very interesting use case. Okay, so thank you for listening to these ideas and thoughts. What's going to happen now is that we're going to have a volunteer to go through the experience and to show you guys how it's really done. And I think we can expect a little bit of bloodshed here in the room. I don't know if that is a first also here at Futur en Scène. Thanks, thanks. Hi, who are you?
I'm Awa.
Welcome, Awa. What's going to happen?
I guess I'm gonna get implanted. That's the thing, right?
How do you feel about this?
Good. I've read enough things about it and seen enough videos, so...
There are plenty of videos online, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't scare you in any way?
No. I mean, someone has to test it out, right? So.
Way to go. A big applause for our volunteer. Thanks. So have a seat. So this is a pretty quick operation. It should take just a couple of minutes. But of course, there is a discussion that has to take place on where you want the implants to sit. And personally, I think that here between the thumb and forefinger is a very good location. But some people like to have it in the back of the hand instead. And it depends a little bit on sort of how you intend to use it. For example, if you want to use it for opening doors, then this location is quite useful. But if you want to, for example, use it for people scanning your hand and getting data, then this location is a bit more handy. And so far I haven't met anyone who has chosen to get 2 implants, but who knows, maybe they'll do that instead. And these chips, they come in a little sterilized syringe kit. And you just stick the needle in and you shoot the little implant in under the skin. And it just takes a second or two. Okay, so we're going through the procedures here. Do you feel good about this? Yeah, okay. You're in good hands, I think.
I think it's way too late to cancel, though.
You're right. Okay, so can you see down there, people? Okay, fantastic. We're up there, yeah. Okay, and so the benefit of working with professional piercers, there are of course some people who do this at home in their kitchens, but it's that you get a professional treatment, the sterilization procedures and the ways of handling the equipment is of course better left to professionals who know what happens when you make a hole in the skin. And of all the implant sessions I've been to where people have gotten implants, it's never been an issue when a professional has done it that people have gotten an infection. And the cool thing with this is also that it's not really even surgery, because you don't need any stitches. It's just a very small puncture hole, and you can put a little band-aid on it and it stops bleeding after a couple of minutes. Hopefully. There was, we did this on stage at another conference some months ago, and they did a super close-up of the needle that was 10 meters wide on the screen. So there was a couple of persons who fainted in the audience. So you may want to look away in the last moment if that's critical. And then the gentleman who got implanted, he got up and continued his talk. And of course, since he was so pumped up, it started bleeding all over the stage. And there was some Americans who were part of hosting this, and they got so scared behind it, started calling the lawyers immediately. It's like, oh, what are we going to do? We're going to get sued. And we were like, no, it's cold. You're in Europe. It's okay with some blood on the stage. Okay, so what we're seeing now is a sterilization of the hand. So you've chosen to have this in your left hand.
I'm right-handed, but my colleagues managed to get me to be paranoid. So they're like, if you lose your right hand, what are you going to do? So I'm like, okay, might as well lose the left one. I don't use it that much, so...
Brilliant analysis. And I mean, we should point out that it is not that difficult to remove the implant the day you want to. And of course, that's another benefit with working with professionals, because if you put it in at home, the injection is pretty easy, but how do you get it out by yourself? Take a kitchen knife and cut yourself open. It's maybe not a good idea. Or you go to a doctor that's going to say, who are you? What did you do to yourself? Okay, what's happening here? More sterilization going on?
I've just cleaned the end, and now I just open all the stuff I will use for the indentation, and then we're gonna start in, I think, 30 seconds.
Fantastic! This is so exciting. No, it's passive, so it is in mute, except when you are touching a reader. Yeah, I know what you mean. No, let's say you fall asleep in the subway, right? And someone can come and scan your hand. No, it's not possible with current technology. Yeah. So what I tell people this is, how you must think about this is that these chips, they can be read by people without your approval. Therefore, you shouldn't perhaps have data on the chip that you're not willing to share publicly. I like to say that put the data you would be okay to have on your T-shirt when you walk down the street. This is the kind of data you should have on the implant, but you should not put sort of your private passwords for your bank account, because you stand at risk of losing them. You pay something with your chip, so you have bank account? No, I opened the office, for example. Yeah, it's payment. It's actually worked like this. It's an e-wallet. So I put like 20 euros into the wallet, and then I swipe my hand. So it's not a direct access to my bank account. And this is a standard where people use for festivals. So you get a wristband, you go to a music festival, you don't want to bring your bank card in your pocket, you're going to go headbanging for a couple of hours, you're going to lose it, right? So you get the wristband with a chip in, so you can buy your beer just by swiping your wrist. But it works just as fine with the implant. Okay, so as you can see, it's a very proper sterilization procedure going on, and now we're getting ready for the for the injection moment. if you guys could be up here, you smell the iodine of the sterilization. You seem quite cool about this.
Yeah, I'm good. Are you trying to like scare me away? No.
I just want the people to, you know, share your experience.
Okay. No, I'm fine.
Thank you. I won't bother you more then. Okay. By the way, are there anyone else in here who's thinking about doing an implant? Couple of people. Cool. We'll see. Okay. So now we're going to draw the point here where the needle is going to go in. Okay, so now Stefan is massaging the shin to loosen the skin a little bit from the underlying tissues, because the needle, the implant is going to go in between the tissues and the skin. Here we go. Here it's done. Big applause. And as we like to say in these contexts, I mean, congratulations to being upgraded. And a little bit jokingly, we said when we have these implant parties, it's a little bit like new birthday parties. So it's like a second little birthday. Happy new birthday, right? It's the 13th of June for you now.